There's a strange quiet around people who don't have childhood memories. Ask them about their first day of school or their favorite toy, and then they'll smile politely, as if you've just asked them to describe the weather on Mars. It's not that they forgot, it's that their brain seems to have stored those scenes in a language it no longer speaks. Their early years feel more like weather patterns than memories, something that passed through them, shaped them, and vanished without leaving scenes behind. Young children encode experience in a pre-verbal, sensory-heavy form. Those memories need language and narrative structures to survive into adulthood. So what happens is that some children spend more time alone than most of us they observed and played in unstructured ways, and they have acquired very rich sensory experiences that simply don't translate into stories. As adults, they can feel nostalgia for something without ever being able to name it. This makes their memory feel like a mosaic of moods, textures, and faint impressions, rather than a continuous story. Some individuals had childhoods filled with symbolic perception rather than narrative perception. Their young mind absorbed colors, atmospheres, and energies, yet ignored plot lines. This is such a different way of seeing the world, and it is not often enough spoken about. Their memory became an archive of moods instead of events. They remember childhood the way one remembers a scent, dimensionally, vaguely, and without timestamps. You see, early childhood memory often depends on interaction and repetition. Memories are strengthened when experiences are reflected back by others. Adults naming things, commenting on events, showing attention, sharing excitement. These are all reflectors. A child who spends more time alone has fewer social anchors for memory. Without those mirrors, the brain will register experiences as fleeting sensations rather than narrative events, so fewer episodes get stored as autobiographical memory. Solitude in early life can give the child strong observation skills and ultra-powerful imagination, but the trade-off is that many ordinary events never stick as remembered moments. Memory often requires witnesses, even invisible ones in the child's brain. One reason lies in attentional focus. Some children are highly inward-looking. They are absorbing the world internally rather than externally, while other kids notice who said what color the playground fence was, or the shape of a birthday cake. These children are watching themselves, thinking about feelings and ideas. The brain records the inner world more than external events, so outward experiences leave little trace. Their memory seems to be blank, but it's in fact selective toward internal processing. The brain encodes early memories more strongly if an event triggers strong emotion, something like fear or joy, big surprise, maybe some shame. Childhoods that are relatively calm may produce fewer lasting memories simply because nothing triggered the brain's store this mechanism. Sparse memory can paradoxically indicate emotional stability rather than dysfunction. Sleep patterns in early childhood can also play a role. Deep, consistent sleep helps consolidate memories. Children who were restless or frequently ill may have sleep cycles that did not support memory consolidation. Freud would say these people repress. Neuroscientists would say their hippocampus just wasn't ready. But both theories miss the poetic truth. Some minds don't archive. They broadcast live. Their consciousness never became a museum. It remained a radio signal. There's something almost zen about it. They live, perhaps freed from the tyranny of total recall. Still, there's melancholy in their detachment. The absence of childhood memory is also the absence of proof that one existed before one was conscious of existing. It's like looking at your own photo album and realizing you're not in it. So they create themselves retroactively through imagination, fiction, or borrowed anecdotes. Their identity becomes speculative literature, auto-fiction without the auto. As one therapist once put it, they don't remember who they were, so they had to become whoever they are. Sometimes, though, these memoryless adults carry a curious emotional clarity. Because they don't have the comforting haze of back then, they experience the present with unsettling intensity. They've never built emotional calluses. They feel life directly, raw, and unreferenced. There's pain in that, but also honesty, an unmediated connection to existence that most people, padded by memory, never taste again. Philosopher Gaston Bachelard wrote, "Childhood lasts as long as there is still something in us that seeks." Maybe that's the secret. The ones without memories aren't missing their childhood. They're still in it, wandering through the adult world with the same wide-eyed unknowing, still waiting to find what everyone else thinks they've already lost. There's another layer to it, one that slips past psychology textbooks and enters something closer to metaphysical folklore. People without childhood memories often describe their lives as if they began mid-sentence, like a story that started long before they arrived. They are born twice, once biologically and once consciously, somewhere around their teens or 20s, when their awareness finally catches up to itself. Before that, there is only a fog of existence, gestures, colors, but nothing coherent enough to call me. They live as if their past is not gone, but unrendered, like an image that refuses to load. Sometimes, when they talk about it, you can feel a faint embarrassment, as though they've missed a social rite of passage. Memory, after all, is a social fabric. It's how people bond. "I remember when" is shorthand for "I share your continuity." To lack that is to live outside of the collective timeline, to drift in temporal exile. But there's also power in that outsiderhood. These are people who, by accident or design, escape the narrative factory. They were never fully programmed by the childhood myths that domesticate the adult imagination. They don't live to recreate their youth, they live to understand what now even is. The absence of early memory also changes how they interpret intimacy. When you don't have a remembered self to compare against, relationships feel less like repetitions and more like inventions. You build instead of reenact. Maybe that's why some of these people seem eerily self-contained. They carry no sentimental debt, no high school version haunting them in mirrors. Their identities are built on present evidence only. And yet, many of them describe spontaneous flashes. Not full memories, but emotional signatures. A texture of sunlight on a wall, the cadence of someone's voice, a rhythm of walking that feels anciently theirs. These are what philosopher Henry Bergson called durations, moments where the past doesn't return, but continues inside the present, indistinguishably. Perhaps they haven't lost their childhood at all. They've internalized it so fully that it no longer exists as a separate country. Writers who lost their past often become obsessed with invention. Nabokov, who once said, "The cradle rocks above an abyss," treated memory as art's raw material. When memory vanishes, imagination rushes in to fill the void. That's the subtle superpower of the memoryless. They can fabricate memory without being shackled by truth. Their recollections are made, not found, and sometimes made better. To live without childhood memories is to live without an origin myth. Most people define themselves by the first chapter. These people start on page 50, then work backward. But perhaps that's how evolution writes now, skipping the sentimental exposition, dropping consciousness straight into the middle of its own mystery.